Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. Now if you've followed the channel for a while you might recognise this model from a video I did in January of 2022 where I reviewed this, the Space Marine Gravis Captain, and I talked about magnetising all the different weapon options so I could switch between them in games. And since then they've languished on the pile of shame, but this is the video that will fix that. Now what I've done here is I've taken a small pin drill and I've drilled a tiny hole into the model at the side of where that magnet is, straightened out a paper clip, just a standard desk paper clip, nothing fancy, super glued that into the hole. You'll see that I've undercoated the models there, so a little bit of blue tack onto a spray board there, sprayed it black and then silver. Then once that's all dry, I've then taken these parts and pushed them into the tops that you see here. Now these tops are the pinning cork tops from the Redgrass Games painting handle. On their new release, they've released some larger tops for their handles, and also these. Now I did a review of those painting handles on the channel recently, but I didn't go into any detail on these pinning corks, mostly because it's not a technique that I overly enjoy doing very often. I do it quite a lot on larger models, so on knights and things with big magnets and big chunky pieces. But I have found historically that when you do it on smaller models, it's a lot of mess and it's a lot of faff, because I've always done it by holding the end of the weapon, painting the end that I'm not holding, let it dry, swap over, etc. And I find it messy and a bit fiddly, if I'm honest. I've done it before where I've used a bit of blue tack like you saw on the spray board there and on a bit of wood or whatever. Never really quite gelled with the technique. So we're going to go through that today, and really the joy of these. Now, you saw me painting the model, the Marine. I'm not going to really go through the colour scheme. I've got a video on that channel before of my custom Space Marine chapter. I'm really just going to have a talk around the sort of point of painting in subcomponents and the use of these pinning corks. Now, see here, transitioning from painting the model to painting the first of these subcomponents. The first thing I was worried about was when I started to put pressure onto the part as I was painting, that it was going to bend that pin that I've used, and then I'd have to go searching for another style of pin. But I found actually, do you know what, a staple straightened out gives enough strength with this particular size of subcomponent that it doesn't bend and break as I'm painting it away. So happy days, that's first worry kind of over and done with. Now I'm going to talk about the first mistake in this video. See here, I've started on the green layer of this model. So I've done all the yellow, then all the green, and realised my mistake. Have you spotted it yet? Well, when you look, that arm and all the arms that I've painted should be green, because this quarter colour scheme, the upper right of the torso should all be green. I thought, oh, what a mistake to make. Never mind. I'll finish doing the green on the actual torso of the model, and then once I've done that right hand side, I'm going to come back and fix my problem and my mistake that I've made on the three parts. I can't believe I made it, but it's one of the things when you get excited, sometimes you're painting models, you can easily make a mistake. This is not the first mistake in this video. I'll show you the other one later. So it's just a simple fix. It will take a couple of layers to go over the yellow with the green I've used. That's one thing to always think about. The base coat that you use and the colours you put over does affect the colour it's going to end up. So obviously this green over a metallic base coat is going to look different to the green over a yellow, but a couple of thin coats does get it so it actually solves it, and in the end it looks the same colour. So, talked about how the thing I was worried about the most to start with was, have I used the right strength of pin? Definitely have. You can see here there's no real movement from that pin. It's not bending, it's not causing any trouble. The second thing I was worried about was, is it going to hold into the actual lid? So with the tops and these pinning corks, worried about whether, that cork, is it going to be enough strength that when I hold the part at a jaunty angle or I knock it around, is it just going to slide and drop out? I did not have that problem whatsoever doing any of these parts. Now the parts are not particularly heavy, you can see here it's just the power fist, the chainsaw and whatever, so it held them perfectly fine. If you're doing bigger parts, is that going to start to be a problem? I don't know. I've not experimented with it too much, but I don't imagine it would be, because the actual cork is a fairly dense cork on the top of this lid. It takes a bit of effort to push it into the cork itself. And I suppose the depth of the cork is what, a few millimetres, maybe 5 mil. Plenty of kind of that grip strength to hold it on, or it would certainly feel like at the start. Very pleasant to use, these lids, in conjunction with the Redgrass Games handles, which again in the review I talked about, they are very kind of ergonomic handles, nice to use, really easy to switch between, as you saw there, the actual body and the subcomponent parts. So nice and easy, doesn't break the flow of your painting. And especially you see here, I'm onto the wash stage of this model, and I'm actually putting quite a lot of pressure onto this part at this point, because I find you have to do that with wash. You're kind of forcing it into all the gaps and cracks. So yeah, really happy with how it held up. Nothing starts bending, nothing starts falling out. And I'd say the same thing with the Redgrass Games handle top itself there. As you can see, the wash is now dried. I'm just doing a bit of a spin test just to show you where we're at with the model. So yeah, enjoyable paint style. Enjoying kind of the process, enjoying kind of getting back to this Marine army. that I've put this model off for a long time. So really not a great deal more to say on the actual painting handle itself or the cork inserts themselves. Is this a style that I'm going to go back to a lot in terms of painting subcomponents? Actually, I'm going to have to, because again, if you watch the channel for a long while, I've got a whole Necromunda gang that I did this exact same thing on, which is an ideal technique to do it on. Did it a Necromunda Cawdor gang, all the different weapon options and things going. So you will see these handles being used again in the future, and I'm going to get that Cawdor gang out and definitely crack on with getting some of my pile of shame kind of covered. Now, talking about pile of shame, this Space Marine you see here, I'm just going along doing my standard painting technique. The advantage of having my own YouTube channel, I suppose, is that if I ever forget what I did to a model, I can just rewatch a video and see how I did it. So I'm following up the exact same painting scheme that I followed when I did this Marine Army originally. The exact same colours, the exact same washes. The only thing different is the brushes I'm using, but that's not going to make a difference for how the paint looks. And I'm going to show you another problem with this paint scheme right here. As I was painting, I kept looking at the yellow and going, it's dull. Why is it looking different? Now this is a new bottle, but it's the exact same deep yellow from Vallejo that I used on this Space Marine. You see here, follow the same steps, nice vibrant yellow. On the Captain, quite dull. I've done a bit of extra work on the leg, which I'm going to take you through in a second. Why is it duller? And I could not think of any other reason other than they have got to have changed the paint mix. But it's all about rescuing. I say here on the channel, I try and show my mistakes as much as what's gone well. So I could not get it to look the same vibrant yellow. Now, the only solution I came up with was taking this, a Games Workshop Contrast Bad Moon Yellow, and putting that in a thin layer over the rather dull yellow that's been built up from using the Vallejo. Now, I hadn't noticed that Vallejo yellow was duller than the prior pot on the other things I'm using it on, because I'm using it in very small parts, like on my Death Guard and things like that. But putting it on these big armour panels, it really stood out. So does anyone know, has Vallejo changed their paint mix? Or am I just completely making this up and there's something different that I've done on my model? I don't know. But I've fixed the problem, and that's half the thing with wargaming and painting. You come across a problem, you work out a solution to fix it. So here's the model with its base done. So I've done a little bit of the base to try and make it match broadly into the Marines I've already done there. And I was setting up for the photo shoot to just take some pictures, you know, for the front cover of this and for Instagram and that kind of thing, and realised it'd be good fun to show you actually taking these pins out. So you can see here, I've varnished the model now, so it has been varnished before I've done anything with this. Easily comes out of the cork, so easy to pull out. Snip it off the end of those pins that I've used, again, which are just staples. You did see there a little bit of it catapulted off the front of my desk there. So when you are doing this, it sounds obvious to say it, but you know, point it away from your face, make sure it's not going to catapult into your eyes, that kind of thing. I suppose that could be one of the perils of doing this kind of technique of painting subcomponents. But really easy to get these pins out, and I suppose that's the thing, they are only staples, so they are really thin. They're not damaging my clippers, I'm not using brass rod or anything like that, but fairly easy to clipper out. And then really now just a show really of this is what this model was designed to do. So here is the Space Marine Gravis Captain with his left fist always remains the same, and the right weapons can be swapped over. So there we are with Power Sword, and then we'll swap between the weapons. Now this was a really useful thing in the previous edition because obviously the weapons did radically different things. 10th edition, I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be as useful a feature for the model, but it's done now. It's been on the pile of shame. It's now off the pile of shame. Quite enjoyed this kind of method. It's nice that I've got different weapons painted for a same model, and it will be really useful for more of your skirmish games like Necromunda. So I suppose overall thoughts, the Redgrass Games pinning cork, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed using it. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about it. See you on another video.